everybody likes. Barbecue?
Yeah! Making my enemies cry!
Bologna sandwiches! Woohoo!
Christmas trees. Oh, he finally said something normal. Dipped in acid. Spoke too soon. No, sorry, none of that stuff. We're talking about money. Moolah. Yes. Cashola. Uh-huh. Dinero. Sure. The green stuff. Cabbage. Jack in your jeans. Okay, Cletus, calm down. They get it. Yes, making sure. Now, money can sometimes be kind of weird. It doesn't always look like this.
Am I still president?
For a while in Central and South America, they use cocoa beans as money. Yeah, chocolate.
Yeah! I ate all of my allowance!
In some countries, they use teeth. Now I can buy a car. And in Canada, there's even a $1 million coin that weighs 220 pounds. That'd take a big old piggy bank. Where almost everywhere you go, people are obsessed with money. Yeah! Not just that, just stuff in general. And they're always worried about running out. Even the disciples, the guys that hung out with Jesus. Just like in today's story, the disciples needed money, so Jesus provided in a way that was kind of weird. He used a fish.
Say what?
I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. Well, that sounds fishy. I don't get it. Well, anyway, you're gonna learn more about it in today's lesson. The disciples go fishing for some money. We'll see you next time. Hit the button, Professor. I'm sorry, I just don't feel like it today. Thank goodness. Just kidding. No, wait. Very funny. You're welcome.
Good morning, boys and girls. I hope y'all have all had a great week. And today I'm going to tell you the power verse. It is God will generously provide all you need. Yes, God will provide generously all you need. And that is found in 2 Corinthians 9 and 8. Everyone enjoy this lesson. It's awesome. Bye.
It's the salt, a little sweet. Oh, hey boys and girls, it's me, Teriyaki, and I was just cooking up something tasty for my restaurant, Nice Rice. It's a 5-star fine dining establishment that's famous for, you guessed it, my rice. Hard to mess that up. Now today, I'm also cooking up a very special power verse. The trouble is, I'm famous for getting things mixed up. Eggs aren't the only thing I scramble. I mix up the ingredients, the names of our dishes, and even the power verse. So I'm gonna need your help unscrambling the whole thing today. So let's look at it together. And Corinthians will generously provide God. 2 All You Need 9:8. No, that is wrong. Very mixed up. Kinda like the time I accidentally scrambled the chickens instead of the eggs. There is nothing worse than a bunch of dizzy chickens running around your kitchen. Ooh, that was rough. Anyway, boys and girls, I'm gonna need your help getting this one unscrambled. Let's take a look at it together. And Corinthians will generously provide God. Whoops, that's a mix-up. I think Corinthians and God are in the wrong spot. Let's try swapping them. And God will generously provide Corinthians. I guess he did create the Corinthians, but I bet that's the book of the Bible. Let's move it over. Where's it say this verse is found? All You Need 9:8. That's not right. I bet Corinthians goes there, and All You Need goes in that blank. Should we try it? I think so. Yes, that's it. I think we have it. Now, stand with me and say it loud on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. And God will generously provide all you need. 2 Corinthians 9:8. That's a great power verse. Now, let's make sure we really know it so when we need to remember it later, it's not all mixed up in our brains. Stand up and say it loud on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. And God will generously provide all you need. 2 Corinthians 9:8. Great job, boys and girls. Now, I've got to get back to seasoning my soup. A little bit of summer, a dash of winter, a pinch of autumn, and a sprinkle of spring. A sprinkle. Anyway, the customers are waiting. So until next time, this is Teriyaki saying, ladles up.
Hey kids, how you doing? Mr. Ben here with what you gotta know. So I'm out here right now fishing, and I thought that I'd go ahead and tell you what you gotta know. For what you gotta know is when I have a need, God will provide. You know, God, He's our good Father, and whenever we have a need, He gives us what we need. He is our provider. He's our Jehovah Jireh, which means God will provide. And I thought that I might as well share with you something that just happened a couple seconds ago. So I was fishing, and I'm just using some worms, but I really wanted some baby fish so then I can go and catch some bigger fish. And as I was fishing, within just a couple of casts, I caught myself an itty bitty baby fish. That way I can go and catch myself a bigger fish, hopefully. So that just shows that God, He provides what we need. So before we go, I want to go over the what you got to know a couple more times. So when I have a need, God will provide. Alright, if you're a boy and you're watching this video right now, I want you to stand to your feet and repeat after me. When I have a need, God will provide. You know, that was alright. Now, if you're a girl, I want you to stand up and I want you to say it louder than your brother, your cousin, whoever was standing next to you. If there was a boy next to you who just said it, I want you to do it even louder. Ready? 1, 2, 3. When I have a need, God will provide. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you enjoy the rest of today's lesson and story. We'll see you later.
What's happening, you crazy cats? It's me, Disco Dave, and I'm here to tell you what you gotta know. Today, we're learning that God will provide for our needs. So today, every time somebody asks you what you gotta know, you tell them, when I have a need, God will provide. God can help us with everything we need. Everything? Whoa. Yep, everything. God knows exactly what you need, and He will provide every time. So today, every time somebody asks you what you gotta know, you tell them, when I have a need, God will provide. That right there is what you gotta know. I'm Disco Dave saying, Dynamite!
Today's crazy Bible story is found in Matthew chapter 17. I'm going to try and read it straight out of my Bible. So here we go. Hopefully y'all have your Bibles open too, okay? Here we go. One day Jesus and his disciples traveled to this town, and one of Jesus' disciples, Peter, was approached by some of the temple tax collectors, and they got in his face and said, "Doesn't your teacher pay the taxes?" Peter was surprised, and he said, "Of course he does." Now, Peter was in a very tough situation because he had just promised somebody that they were going to pay some money to them. But the problem is that Peter didn't have a job anymore. He used to be a fisherman, but he left it behind so that he could follow Jesus. So now he doesn't have a way to actually pay the temple tax. So Peter immediately was like, let me just go talk to Jesus about it. And he went and he brought this need to Jesus' attention. So he went to where Jesus was staying, and the moment that Peter walked up to Jesus, Jesus spoke to him without Peter even telling him why he was there. And he said, what do you think, Peter? Do kings tax their own people or the foreigners they have conquered? Peter must have been so shocked. Jesus was asking him about it before he even said anything, before he even mentioned anything, and that was just crazy. Jesus then went on to say, we don't want to offend anybody, so let's go ahead and pay the temple taxes. Then Jesus told Peter, go down, throw out the fishing line, catch a fish, and the first fish that you catch, open the fish's mouth, and there will be a coin in it, and with that coin, we will pay for the taxes. That's a crazy idea. I've been fishing plenty of times, and anytime I've taken a hook out of that fish's mouth or somebody else has done it, there ain't no money falling out of that fish. So, I mean, that just, okay, Jesus, okay. So that must have been insane. I don't know how Peter did it, but you know what? Peter went and did it, and can you just imagine what it must have been like for Peter? He went down to the lake, went fishing, caught a fish, pulled money out of the fish's mouth, and went to pay. Can you imagine how awesome he probably felt when he handed over that money with fish guts all over it to those people? That would have been so funny, honestly. But you know what, guys? Peter learned a very, very, very crazy, important lesson that day, and you're going to learn it too today, all right? And this lesson is simple. God can provide even in the craziest ways, all right?
Hi, boys and girls. Hope you guys are all doing very, very well today. Love and miss every one of you, just like we always say, and we say it because we mean it. We don't just say it just to say, oh, we love and miss you guys. No, we really, really, really do. Some of you guys really make my day. Yesterday I had a really, really bad day, and then all of a sudden I see a thing from Joshua that he said he just wants to give me a great big hug. Well, you know what, Joshua? I want to give you a great big hug too. I cannot wait to see you all. I can't wait for all this to be behind us and say it was a learning period in our life. It was a time we got close to our families, maybe a time to sit back and maybe think about things and what really are our priorities. I really want this to be a time that I sit back and say, okay, what can I do differently? There are some things that I've missed, like church and children's church, but there are some things that I'm definitely going to keep doing as far as taking more time for myself and for my family. So I've really enjoyed that part of this quarantine. So I wanted to ask you guys, how many of you liked the story today? It was really cool, wasn't it? I mean, can you imagine like seeing money in a fish's mouth whenever you go fishing? How many of you are gonna go fishing after this, right? Well, if you get some money, you have to give 10% of it to the church, okay? So don't forget to tithe on it if you find a treasure in a fish's mouth, okay? So how many of you ever have had a really big need like Peter did in the story? He really needed, it wasn't just a little bit of money. He really needed a lot of money to pay off these taxes. How many of you have ever owed money? Have you owed money maybe to your brother or to your sister? Maybe you borrowed it for something. One thing that I was thinking of whenever I was reading this is I remember one time, how many have you ever had to sell candy bars? Yeah, I've sold plenty of candy bars in my life, especially when I was younger and in school. And one time I just thought it'd be really cool just to give these candy bars away and eat a few myself. So all of a sudden my mom asked me, she's like, all right, Penny, your money's due tomorrow for the candy bars. I need all the money. And I was like, oh my goodness, I thought I had more time. So I went scrounging through the house. I was checking underneath cushions and in the car, and I was asking my mom, can I do something? Can I vacuum? Can I earn some money? I was really sweating it, and I finally was able to come up with the money to pay for all the candy bars that I had given away. So we all have times in our lives, and I could go on numerous times where I didn't know how we were going to pay a bill. I didn't know how we were going to keep our lights on. I didn't know how I was going to make a mortgage payment or a rent payment, or to put food on our table for a family of 6. We really went through some hard times. It may not look like it now, but yes, I have had my fair share, and so has my husband, Pastor Brian. We've had our fair share of very tough times in our lives, and we're not immune to it now. So we've really had to be careful even during this quarantine with things. So we've all had moments in our lives where we've had a huge need. We could do so much, and we could try to go earn it. We could try to do this, we could try to do that, or we could do what Peter did. And you see, Peter didn't choose to stress out. He didn't choose to go and tell all of these other people that he had a need. Who did he go to first in the story? He went to Jesus. And that's the first thing we have to learn here, is when we have a need, we have to go to Jesus first. Peter didn't go off and say, oh my goodness, he didn't tell everybody on his way to see Jesus that I don't know what I'm going to do. He didn't put it on Facebook. He didn't put it on Instagram. He didn't make a YouTube video about it. He went to Jesus first, and he didn't tell all these people. He didn't have his head hung low and said, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? He went to Jesus first. He didn't come up with a crazy plan of selling brownies or vacuuming the floor like I did. He took it straight to Jesus. Boys and girls, when we have a need, we have to take it to Jesus first. And that is a lesson that sometimes I have a hard time with, because I want to find out, like, what can I do? Who can help me? I have to vent. I have to tell somebody all about my need. But you know what? We have to get to the point where we say, you know what? God, I need to bring this to you. I need to let you know my problems, because you know what? If you had a friend who had all of the money in the world, they were very, 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 very wise, they were very, very giving, and they were very, very forgiving, and you were in a bind, would you go to them, or would you go to someone else that you knew that was probably just as bad off as you were? You would go to the friend that had it all, right? Well, what do you think about God? God made everything. He's the creator of our universe that we live in. He's the maker of everything that we have. He is the giver of everything that we have, everything that he's blessed us with. So why wouldn't we choose to go to him first? And we really have to make a conscious decision. And I pray that the Holy Spirit would just check us all before we start giving our needs to everybody else and telling our needs to everybody else, until we take that need to God. And that's the one good thing that Peter did. He took it to God first. Did you notice that Peter walked in to tell Jesus his need, that Jesus already knew about it? Don't you think that before we even come to God for a request, that he already knows about it? He already knows your need. But does that mean that he doesn't want us to tell him? Absolutely not. He still wants you to ask him. He's your father. He's an Abba Father. He's a daddy God that loves you and that wants to provide for you. So what does that teach us? So Jesus already knew that Peter was worried about the taxes that he owed. And Jesus told him that whatever you do, Jesus told him what to do even before Peter asked him, didn't he? He's a good God, but you know what? Sometimes we think that God doesn't know what's going on in our lives, so we don't think that God realizes how tough things are in our life. But you know what? He does know, and he cares. He cares very deeply about you. Boys and girls, sometimes we begin to wonder if God, are you there? You know, we pray sometimes and we're like, I don't think God hears me. I don't think God really understands. But you know what? Jesus came to earth to spend time among men. He came, he was flesh. If you pinched him, he would have said, ow. So he knows exactly what it's like. He knows what it feels like to be hurt. He knows what it feels like have pain. I mean, my goodness, he was crucified on a cross, right? He knew he was under a lot of stress when he was here, but yet he never sinned. He was the only man that ever walked this earth that did not sin. And just like Jesus told Peter what to do and he obeyed, we must obey when God tells us what to do, because God will provide. I wanted to bring out this treasure, and my granddaughter gave me this treasure, special treasure. I will always treasure it, no matter what. I don't know how much this is worth, but you know what it's worth to me? A whole lot. My granddaughter Tinley gave this to me as a gift, and it's something that I would probably give you a lot of things in my home that were probably maybe the world thinks that it's worth more, but you know what? This is worth so much. And whenever I started reading the story about the fish and about how Peter found the money in the fish's mouth, I thought about this coin, and that's why I went and got it, because you never know what God has for you. And if we choose to live up to the world's standards, we lose out on so much. So you always want to know, what does God have for me? So God will provide. Peter thought that there was no way that he was going to be able to pay that tax, but God, right? But Jesus did. But he followed Jesus's instructions, and he picked up a fishing pole, and he went out and he cast it out. It took obedience on his part, didn't it? God didn't say, or Jesus didn't say, you know what, Peter, I'm going to send a dog up here. You just sit here. You just sit here and wait, okay? And if he would have, that would have been obedient. But Jesus said to go. He said to go, get a fishing pole, cast it out, and then reel it in, and then see, and then check the first fish that he didn't say, you're gonna have to catch 100 fish before you find this, or guess what? It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be like, you're gonna catch 5 fish, then you're gonna go over here and catch 5 more. Jesus made it pretty easy, didn't he? For him to get the fish. So Peter had put his trust in Jesus. He obeyed him. And that's part of the problem whenever we need something from God. When God tells us to do something, we have to be obedient. We can't just say, all right, God, well, maybe I'll do that tomorrow. Whatever God tells you to do, no matter how foolish it sounds, because we're doing what? Stories that are really tough to believe. They're crazy. These stories are crazy. I mean, who would think that there would be money in a fish's mouth, especially that much money to pay off all the taxes for Peter and for Jesus? So Jesus said to throw out the line and pull in the first fish he caught. By this time, Peter was like, what in the world? What are you talking about, Jesus? I mean, they were really close, right? And I wonder, did he really question him, or did he just say, okay, maybe he had seen so many miracles at this point that he was like, you know what? I'm not even going to question you. I'm just going to go. As crazy as it sounds, as crazy as it seems, and as crazy as people are going to look at me, then I'm still going to be obedient. And you know what? I thought about that, and I'm like, you know what, God? As many miracles that I've seen, as many times as God has provided, I mean, I could tell you countless stories, boys and girls. When you are faithful to God and you are faithful in your giving, sometimes it took everything that Pastor Brian and I had, everything that we had, and we said, you know what, God, we're still going to give you what we're supposed to. We're still going to do our part, God. We're still going to give in this special offering. We're still going to give this thing for Children's Church because we know that we need it. We know that you're gonna bless it. We know that it's gonna win souls to the Lord. We did it, and we were obedient. And God always, this is the one thing that God always says: test me and see if I don't open up the windows of heaven and pour out on your family. So He will bless you. So I'm sure Peter never thought that he would be paying taxes with money actually out of a fish's mouth. But you know what? But God knew. God knew exactly what Peter needed. God provides for His children. And one thing that I wrote in here is to put your faith into action. Don't just live a mediocre life, or like just to get by the skin of your teeth. Do things that God is going to bless. Do things, give your tithe. Give not only your tithe, because that's just obedience, but give offerings, give things to people, give to the needy, give to the church, give to who needs it, because you cannot outgive God. I'm telling you right now, you cannot outgive God. I know that we have so many blessings in our lives and in our marriage and in my family from giving and from being obedient to God. And I know that my mom is still obedient, and my father was, when he was alive, he was a very, very giving man. He would just, even when we were younger, he would give, but he was very, very giving to the church, and so was my grandfather. So that is generations upon generations that have been obedient to God. And for that, our children and their children and their children's children will be blessed by it. So always put your faith into action. Always say, you know what, God, I am going to trust you with this, because there's nothing too big for God. He owns it all. If he can put money, if he can put a jewel in a fish's mouth enough to get someone out of debt, he can do a miracle for you, or your dad or your grandparents, whatever, talking about, you know what, I don't know how we're going to pay this bill. These are some very tough times right now. But when you hear them saying, I don't know how we're going to do this, I want you to go get them and say, I know how we're going to get through this. We're going to pray about it, and we're going to ask, we're going to take it to God first, and we're going to see what Jesus does with us. Because when you are faithful, God will provide, and he will provide a miracle, whether it's a light bill, whether it's a rent payment, a mortgage payment, a car payment, whatever it is, God will provide. You pray and you put your faith into action, and you say, we're going to believe on this. And I will believe with you that God, whatever the need is tonight, whatever the need is today that you have, that God will provide it. Because when you put your trust in him and you take it to him and you say, God, I trust you with this, and I know that you're going to provide, and you speak life into that situation, he will provide for you. So I'm going to close in prayer, and I hope you guys, I hope this just got way down deep in your hearts tonight, and you believe that whenever you are in a crisis and you need help and you say, God, I'm going to take this to you first. I believe that you will provide, God, my family, this need for my family, or this need for my grandmother, this need for my uncle or my aunt, whatever it is, God will provide. Even if it's a job that they need right now, I pray right now that God would provide every need in your family. So I'm going to pray, and I hope you guys pray with me. And if there's a need that you have, you can either message us on here, or just let us know some way to pray for you, and we will pray for you.